Part 9. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 81. As the saying goes, laymen watch the excitement, experts watch the doorway. Xiao Yushan is an expert. Zhang Zizai's everything is not standard, but he can succeed in the end. So in his mind, there are only two words, that is, talent. When Zhang Zizai produced 2 acceleration talismans, Shen Qingyu, who is also an expert, was already dumbfounded. He has only been in contact for a month. Impossible, he felt that there must be something wrong. He has not lost to anyone in terms of talent in talismans. But under his eyes, Zhang Zizai completed the 3rd acceleration talisman very smoothly. So far, the success rate is 100%. Oh, no, I'm so tired, please spare me, old man, Zhang Zizai stretched. Juxian looked at Xiao Yushan and said, just now he fought with others and used the acceleration talisman. Someone suspected that his acceleration talisman was not made by himself, so he drew one on the spot. With the 3 now, it is already 4 consecutive ones, and the success rate is 100%. Really? Xiao Yushan widened his eyes. Are you serious? Do you think I can make money by cheating you? You stingy guy. Shen Qingyu knew that he couldn't make 4 consecutive acceleration talismans all successful. Unbelievable. Jin Yuxuan said, the acceleration talisman should be the simplest talisman. I remember Qingyu knew how to use it when he was 13 years old. Juxian rolled his eyes at him and said, at this time, laymen should stop talking. It was obvious that the other party wanted to compete. Xiao Yushan ignored them. He stared at Zhang Zizai and said, ask you some questions. Okay. How many times did you succeed? The first time, Zhang Zizai answered honestly. Puff. Shen Qingyu couldn't help laughing. He shook his head and said, how could anyone succeed the first time in this world? Most people don't know where to start the first time. Zhang Zizai smiled and didn't answer him, because what he said only required Xiao Yushan to believe it. So far, how many pieces of talisman paper have been used, and how many have succeeded? About 20 pieces, 4 failed, and those 4 were all drawn while talking, not very focused. Zhang Zizai was telling the truth. If Xiaoyu had put her head on the talisman paper at that time, it would be strange if she could succeed. After listening to this, Shen Qingyu couldn't help but laugh, and Jin Yuxuan asked him not to say more. Pa! Xiao Yushan slapped his hand on the table, puffed his beard and glared at Zhang Zizai. What are you doing? The 9 immortals were all frightened by him. The peerless talent of the Totem Talisman Master. Xiao Yushan said word by word in a very serious manner. So, Zhang Zizai, are you willing to be my disciple and lead the way for you? Xiao Yushan looked at him with fiery eyes. It succeeded. He stood up and said, of course I am willing to meet the respected master. That, meet the 8th senior brother. By the way, he greeted Shen Qingyu. Xiao Yushan has made up his mind. Jin Yuxuan and Shen Qingyu were both a little surprised. Jin Yuxuan said, Brother Xiao, you can't just believe what he said. Young people, it's better to give him more tests. For example, Qingyu, didn't you ask him to draw the fireball talisman within 2 years before accepting him as a disciple? For this child has suffered a lot in the past 2 years. Xiao Yushan's face turned cold and said, you are so nosy. You have to control my accepting of disciples. Okay, I just think it's a bit unfair to Qingyu. Jin Yuxuan shook his head. Shen Qingyu hurriedly said, Priest, Master, don't argue. Since Zhang Zizai really has such a talent, I am happy for him. We will be brothers in the same sect in the future. Zhang Zizai knew that he was still unbalanced. However, he didn't want to leave a bad impression in front of the master he had just worshipped. Zhang Zizai smiled and said, that's it. Let's make progress together in the future. He didn't envy Shen Qingyu at all. He felt that it was not easy for the other party to achieve the current achievements through hard work. As for the other party who seemed a little jealous or unbalanced, he couldn't do anything about it. Competing with each other can make more progress, Xiaoyushan said lightly. He didn't mind that the two disciples competed, so that they could be more outstanding. But, you need to correct your heart. Seeing each other as competitors is actually working together. Yes, Master Shen Qingyu nodded. Then Jin Yuxuan said goodbye, and the two of them left first. Okay, don't be so serious, I know you are so happy that you are about to fly. Juxian exposed Xiaoyushan. Jin Yuxuan left, and Xiaoyushan was full of smiles, looking at Zhang Zizai, and couldn't let go. If you have any questions in the future, come to me at any time. If you have any needs in practicing talismans, come to me at any time. He was not so enthusiastic about other disciples. The acceleration talisman, you have already completed it. Now I will teach you the deceleration talisman. This is a mid-grade Chen level talisman, which is twice as difficult as the acceleration talisman. This is the deceleration talisman book I recorded. There are totem patterns in it. After you go back, think about it carefully. I will show you once first, you should remember the steps and key points. Xiaoyushan is also a man who doesn't talk too much. He just became his disciple and he directly taught Zhang Zizai how to use the deceleration talisman. It is very important for Zhang Zizai to have a guide to demonstrate it in person. He put aside all distractions and focused all his attention on Xiaoyushan's notes. Strive to complete it in one go, so you must be extremely familiar with it. In order not to waste talisman paper, you can scribble anywhere. You need to see this detail clearly. It is not an ordinary turning point, but a turning point with 3 vibrations of the pen tip to form an effect. The difficulty of this deceleration talisman is that if the vibration time and position are wrong, the deceleration talisman will not be successful. And this ending must be done at the fastest speed, as fast as possible, so you need to practice your pen speed during this period. As for the way of holding the pen, there are certain standards, but there are actually exceptions. You just need to do it according to what you feel comfortable with. The way of talismans is profound and extensive. Zhang Zizai is indeed still in the starting stage. Let alone the fireball talisman, even this deceleration talisman is difficult for him, so at this time, he must avoid being arrogant and impatient. One day, when you have mastered the deceleration talisman, come to me again, and I will know your new work. If you don't understand something in the middle, just come and ask. But I still suggest that you think for yourself, because thinking and overcoming problems by yourself will increase your thinking ability. Totem talisman masters need a big picture and thinking ability. This is something that those ironsmiths can never compare to. At this time, Xiaoyushan did not forget to despise the ironsmiths. He explained a lot, and Zhang Zizai did not leave here until the evening. Before that, Juxian had already left, and she had no intention of staying here. Before leaving, Xiaoyushan also gave him a token that allowed him to enter and leave the East region freely. Child, becoming a top talisman master can control your destiny, Xiaoyushan said solemnly. Respected teacher, once a teacher, a father for life. He knelt on one knee and bowed. In fact, although Juxian was his priest, it was not the feeling of a mentor, but only a sister. Xiaoyushan was the one who guided him forward like his master. It was already night when they left Xiao Mansion and returned to Juxian Pavilion. I didn't expect the first day of the temple sacrifice would be so exciting. Zhang Zizai was in the courtyard, looking at the night, a little dazed. Boss, did it succeed? When he returned to the room, he didn't expect that the 4 of them were all there. They gathered together, with a table in the middle, and a pile of wood blocks on it. When Zhang Zizai came in, he saw them saying, 9 pieces. Bang, bang, bang. Let go. I'll go, God bless me, let's go. Zhang Zizai looked at them and felt a little overwhelmed. What the hell is this? The game taught by the priest is called Mahjong, which is said to exercise IQ. Bai Shenjin laughed. Brother, he cheated and won a lot of our spirit stones. Let him spit it out. Ruo Xiaoya gritted her teeth, then hit a piece of wood and said, what a chicken. Got it, haha, Xiaohu, Xiaohu, take the money, take the money. Bai Shenjin had another income. Zhang Zizai watched them play a few games, and tried it himself, and sure enough, he lost. It was too late, so he stopped playing. Panda, come out for a moment. Zhang Zizai had to tell him about the 6 Prefectures Festival and the Imperial Martial Section. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 82. Zhang Zizai told Lu Dingxing about the 6 Mansion Gala and the Huangguo sect. After Lu Dingxing finished listening, he was silent for a long time. I want to get Tai Chi, Zhang Zizai said. Good. Under the moonlight, the two of them sat on the roof, looking at the bustling lights of Yanlong ruins. The world is vast. What are you thinking about? Zhang Zizai asked. I'm a little confused thinking about what happened at Huangtian Pass. The truth must not be like that, Zhang Zizai said. My father taught me to be loyal and righteous. He will never harm anyone. What if we have no control this time? Then one day, I will avenge him and clear his name. Lu Dingxing looked at the palace, and the whites of his eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes. Revenge sounds treasonous. But neither of them felt that this matter could not be accomplished. I don't know what I can do, but at least I have to stand in front of him. Lu Dingxing's eyes were filled with turbulent light. It's late at night, practice. In the priest's room, Zhang Zizai meditated on the totem and saw the black dragon again. A black petal, so charming. If I get Tai Chi, how will this totem transform? He immersed himself in it, searching for his 9th spiritual aperture. Within the body, the 8 spiritual orifices have gradually been connected together. Zhang Zizai has gradually figured out where the 9th spiritual orifice should be to form the outline of a black dragon in the body. He needs to condense the infuriating energy of the 8th spiritual orifice to the same level as the infuriating energy of the other 7 black dragons. I don't know when, a burst of fragrant wind hit my nostrils. Zhang Zizai knew that she was here. When he opened his eyes, he saw her moving figure in the swaying candlelight. SHH, don't move. She gently leaned down, stretched out her finger, and touched Zhang Zizai's totem. At that moment, vitality surged. But in her posture, her chest was right in front of him. Such a fragrant beauty was really difficult to practice and almost made Zhang Zizai go crazy. Ah, I'm sorry, I didn't notice it. Juxian then tightened his clothes. I watched them play mahjong today. It was very interesting. Is it also a game from your hometown? Are you interested in this? In addition to mahjong, there are many other fun things. Now you come to the temple of worship, in my territory. From now on, we can play slowly. Under the candlelight, her eyes were blurred, and the little fox between her eyebrows was cute, including some exciting things. Zhu Xian blew a breath into his ear, which was very itchy. You tease me like this. If I can't help but do it, will I get beaten? Yes. This kind of practice is interesting, but it is also torture. However, in order to fight against fate, Zhang Zizai endured it. It's late at night. Juxian opened his eyes, looked at the serious young man, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. The news that Zhang Zizai came to the sacrifice temple and defeated Dong Yangsheng actually spread quickly. In the sacrificial temple, the priests discussed Zhang Zizai. Of course, their attention quickly ignored Zhang Zizai and focused on the source of evolution, Tai Chi. As soon as Tai Chi came out, the whole temple was in uproar. Full attribute adaptation, 3-level evolution source, enough to make any priest crazy. It's a pity that each priest only has 5 places. Basically, the priests have already submitted the list on the same day. 3 days later, the list was announced in the sacrifice square and posted. Although many people knew they had no hope, they still went over to take a look. Zhang Zizai was definitely sure to win in Tai Chi, so he went to the God Sacrifice Square with Bai Shenjin and others. On a wall of the God Sacrifice Square, the names of the participants were posted. They were divided into groups of 5, and each group had a team name, which was probably chosen by the priest. Basically, it's named after the priest. It is said that the test at that time will be a team battle, so a pair of names is used to represent the whole. The God Sacrifice Square is crowded with people, and you have to squeeze in if you want to see clearly. Fortunately, Wan Qian is here, and his eyes are extraordinary. How's it going? Are we there? Bai Shenjin asked quickly. After all, the 9 immortals are fickle, who knows if she will change her mind at the last moment. Zhang Zizai, Lu Dingxing, Ruo Xiaoyu, Bai Shenjin, and me. Yes, it's the 5 of us. Wan Qian took a look. Sure enough, his eyes were really scary. It was still hundreds of feet away, and there were heads everywhere. Zhang Zizai couldn't even see clearly. What powerful and domineering name did the priest give us? Don't call us the 9 Immortals team, it's too girly, Bai Shenjin asked nervously. When Wan Qian looked at it again, he was startled and asked, it says, King of Glory Team. Glory of the King? What the hell? Bai Shenjin's eyes widened. Zhang Zizai curled his lips and said, it's probably another rubbish game from her hometown. Zhang Zizai and the others were used to her unpredictable temperament. Other people's teams all have 2 characters, but they have 4 characters. For example, those selected by Enran were all from the Black World clan, and were directly called the Black World team. The list has been confirmed. Zhang Zizai and the others are too lazy to stay here, there are too many worshippers. Baishan, look. On the way back, Wan Qian suddenly pointed a direction to Bai Shenjin. There were several young men and women gathered there, among whom there was a girl who stood out. She was wearing a light blue dress and her eyes were slightly blue, giving people a frosty feeling, but it was undeniable that she was a very beautiful girl. Xueying. Bai Shenjin rushed over immediately as if he had been injected with chicken blood. The girl saw that it was him, so she asked the people around her to go first. The 2 of them didn't know what they were talking about, but Bai Shenjin looked like he was in love for the first time. He seemed to take out a package and handed it to the girl. The other party frowned slightly and refused at first, but later took it away at Bai Shenjin's request. After saying a few words, she waved to Bai Shenjin and said goodbye first. Bai Shenjin watched her turn around and leave, and after a long time, he came back with a smile on his face. Did you send it out? Wan Qian asked. Yes, she accepted it. Bai Shenjin was full of joy. Who is it? So sweet, Zhang Zizai asked. Nangong Xueying, you don't know her? She's the top genius among the disciples. She's 15 years old and in the 3rd level of the Xuanmei realm, Bai Shenjin said. At this age and in this realm, she's really scary. Is she from the Tianpeng clan? With the surname Nangong and such talent, she's 90% from the Tianpeng clan. Bai Shenjin nodded and said, yes, she's very high-ranking. She's the most outstanding daughter of heaven here. Those who want to pursue her can line up from here to your great Zhongqing city. Zhang Zizai saw that the girl was really beautiful, very cold and elegant, and had an extraordinary temperament. Wan Qian said, she accepted your gift, which means she's still good to you. There's hope. It can be seen that Bai Shenjin likes her very much. Let's talk about it when I reach the Xuanmei realm. The gap between us is really too big now. Bai Shenjin curled his lips. The other party was too talented, and he was helpless. Zhang Zizai was a little curious. Judging from the attitude of the girl just now, she was actually good to Bai Shenjin, because other men couldn't get close to her at all. However, there is a big gap between their identities and talents. How could Nangong Shuiying give him hope? Baishan once saved her life. A few months ago, during a trial, she was attacked by a source beast and was seriously injured and dying. It was Baishan who saved her. The two stayed in the cave for a few days until they were rescued. Wanqian answered Zhang Zizai's doubts. A man and a woman alone, how many days do they spend together? Zhang Zizai smiled. Baishan Jin's face flushed, and he said, "Don't think about it. I just tried my best to save her life." He. They smiled tacitly. If it's a life-saving grace, maybe Baishan Jin really has a chance. After all, they can be friends. The third level of the Xuanmei realm. That's probably our biggest opponent, Zhang Zizai murmured. What are you thinking about? Our King of Glory team will be cannon fodder if we go up. They don't regard us as opponents, Baishan Jin said nonchalantly. He never thought about getting Tai Chi. After all, it sounds really far away now. However, Zhang Zizai's mind had already been determined. When the battle really started, Baishan Jin would understand his determination. They were walking back when suddenly a disciple from Juxian Pavilion ran to them panting. "Zhang Zizai, hurry back to Juxian Pavilion," the disciple panted and said anxiously. "What's the matter?" "Princess Shenxiao, I'm here to see you." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 83. Zhang Zizai almost thought there was something wrong with his ears. "You said, Princess Shenxiao is looking for me," he widened his eyes. "That's right, Princess Shenxiao is looking for you, in your room." Many people around heard what he said. For a moment, everyone looked at him sideways. Why did Princess Shenxiao, such a noble person, come to the sacrifice temple to find Zhang Zizai? No matter how you look at it, they are almost enemies now. At least they are in opposing camps. Waiting for him in his room doesn't look like she is coming to ask for punishment before making a big fuss. Why did Princess Shenxiao come here to find him? Can't she just summon him directly? Don't think about it. Maybe Zhang Zizai has done something wrong. His family has been a street rat in the entire dynasty. The disciples gathered in twos and threes, watching Zhang Zizai discuss from a distance. "Let's go back." Zhang Zizai pondered for a moment, and returned to Juxian Pavilion with Lu Dingxing and 4 others. "Boss, I'm afraid it's not a good thing," Lu Dingxing said. Zhang Zizai naturally felt that nothing good would happen. The joyous childhood was probably forgotten long ago. I remember that every time she came, the first thing she asked when she entered the door was, "Where is Brother Zizai?" I haven't seen her for nearly 10 years. Today, she actually came to find me. Hearing that it was Princess Shenxiao, some priests who wanted to watch the show even followed and pretended to pass by unintentionally. Baishan Jin and Wanqian knew with a little thought that Zhang Zizai's brother was now under the control of the royal family. There was absolutely no room for negotiation between him and Princess Shenxiao, who was a member of the royal family. In a blink of an eye, they arrived at Juxian Pavilion. Zhang Zizi told them not to get close. He wanted to meet the Xiao Zhao of the past in person. He thought that Juxian Pavilion would be crowded with Princess Shengxiao's guards. Unexpectedly, there was not a single guard, only other priests stretched their necks to watch the show. I said, how could a criminal be so arrogant in Yanlongxiu? Dong Yangsheng couldn't help sneering in the crowd. "I'll deal with you later." Zhang Zizai glared at him, even though he was defeated. His room was closed. Zhang Zizai walked to the door. He knew the girl was inside. "I'm Zhang Zizai. Can I come in?" He adjusted his breathing a little and was ready to face Princess Shengxiao's tricks. "Come in." It was the first time he heard her voice. He didn't expect it to be so soft and beautiful. It was different from what Zhang Zizai had imagined. When he saw her a few days ago, he thought she had the aura of an emperor and her words and voice would be particularly domineering. So he simply opened the door and went in front of everyone, and didn't forget to close the door. Close the door. What a courage! Dare to be alone with Princess Shen Xiao. Everyone was shocked. He's dead. This crime alone is enough for him. Dong Yangshen couldn't help laughing. Although the door was closed, they still believed that something big must have happened, so they waited patiently outside. After hearing the news about Princess Shen Xiao, more disciples of other priests gathered at the door and stretched their necks to look inside. Ruo Xiaoyu was a little nervous. Xiaoyu, don't worry, the boss won't suffer any loss. I'm afraid there are other strong people inside who will attack my brother. Don't worry, this is the sacrifice temple, they dare not. Bai Shenjin said speechlessly, you didn't hear it just now, they are now alone in the same room. However, with Princess Shen Xiao's own ability, it is more than enough to deal with Boss Zhang. After seeing Zhang Zizai's ability, Bai Shenjin directly called him boss. Many people are speculating about what will happen inside. This is a meeting between the descendants of two huge families after the hatred is established. They have a lot of speculations, but they are all far from reality. After Zhang Zizai came in, he saw a girl in a dark red long skirt, sitting at the desk, flipping through the books of the sacrifice temple. Quiet and natural, not anxious at all. She wore a light golden hair accessory, which embellished her face even more outstandingly. The long skirt was shoulder length, and her snow-white shoulders and collarbones were quite charming. Although not as turbulent as Juxian, it was also very beautiful. Today she was not covered with a veil, and Zhang Zizai finally saw her face clearly. Even though she had seen women like Juxian and Zhang Yuning, she was also particularly stunning at first sight. She did not have the frail beauty of Zhang Yuning, nor the charming beauty of Juxian, but a kind of youthful beauty with heroic spirit and coexistence of coquettishness. If she was older, she might be a bit like Ruo Hua. Yes, it was the feeling of Ruo Hua. Zhang Zizai had such an illusion at that moment. Zhang Yuning said that she was very beautiful. Now at first glance, she was indeed a stunning beauty, and she had the vitality of youth. Whether it was her eyes or her movements, she was full of enviable vitality. The most impressive thing was her collarbone, which looked like a proud plum blossom in the cold. When she saw Zhang Zizai coming in, she put down the book and stood up, smiling slightly. Brother Zizai, time has passed, do you still remember Xiao Zhao? Zhang Zizai really didn't expect that her first sentence would be like this when they met this time. 10 years ago, she called herself Brother Zizai and called herself Xiao Zhao, but Zhang Yuning had told her that she was the princess of Shenxiao and could not call her by her name. The sincerity and purity in her eyes made it impossible for people to doubt that she was playing with him. Zhang Zizai could not forget the whirlpool of hatred that the two families were now trapped in. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. He pursed his lips, saluted, and said without squinting, Zhang Zizai, I have met Princess Shen Xiao. Hearing his words, Princess Shen Xiao shook her head and said, before I came, I thought that things are different now from 10 years ago, and you would definitely forget our childhood. Zhang Zizai didn't forget much, but he didn't expect that Princess Shen Xiao could remember her childhood. She had been so charming over the years, Zhang Zizai thought that she had forgotten about him a long time ago. She walked forward slowly, stared at Zhang Zizai with a pair of beautiful eyes, suddenly laughed, and said, I remember Brother Zizai, he was too playful when he was a child, his face was covered with mud every day, and his clothes were not clean. I didn't expect to grow up. The queen is handsome and clean now. Does she remember this? Zhang Zizai thought that maybe he had a preconceived idea, and his impression of their family was already very bad. The princess is still as beautiful as ever. Zhang Zizai still kept his distance. He wanted to know what she meant. Nonsense. When I was a child, my teeth didn't grow properly. You called me little bucktooth, which made me secretly wipe a lot of tears. At this point, she must have recalled what happened back then, and burst into laughter. She looked like a blooming flower, delicate and warm. Too much like Xuanhuan. Zhang Zizai had forgotten about the little buck teeth. It was her mention that made him remember that there was indeed such a thing. He did love to tease her when she was little. However, even so, Princess Shenxiao also loved playing with him, because Zhang Zizai's gameplay was interesting enough. She would not dare to be so crazy in the palace. He took her to dig out birds' nests, catch wasps, and catch fish in the river. Once, you took me to dig out a honeycomb, and you ran away, leaving me with bruises all over my face. I hated you so much at that time. At this point, she was both angry and amused. She stretched out her pink fist and hit Zhang Zizai twice on the chest. Zhang Zizai remembered that he had indeed gone too far that time. He had done it on purpose, and Ruohua gave him a beating later, which turned his buttocks red. You have a good memory. Zhang Zizai pursed her lips. If she hadn't mentioned these things, she would have forgotten them. It's okay. I remember they were all interesting things. The thing I wanted most at that time was to go to Daejiang City to find you, and the thing I hated the most was to go back to the Imperial City. Every time I went back, I had to cry for days. At that time, my mother, if you like brother Zi so much, just marry him when you grow up. I said yes. At the end, she secretly glanced at Zhang Zizai. But later on, when I was 6 years old, my father gave me a heavy training task and asked me to start practicing before I got the totem. I no longer have time to find you. She bit her pink lips and said, but life is still very beautiful. It has been almost 10 years since I saw brother Zizi again. Zhang Zizai had forgotten that that little girl was indeed somewhat dependent on him. But after all this time, are those innocents still there? He looked at Princess Shenxiao and remained silent for a long time. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 84. After letting him look at her like this for a long time, Princess Shengxiao's face turned a little rosy. She took a few steps back and said, Brother Zizai, you don't seem to be as happy as before. Zhang Zizai has been thinking. What is going on? He thought that aside from the fun they had in childhood, they were now enemies on opposite sides. Why, she said this to herself to remind herself that she was indeed very happy playing at that time. At that time, Zhang Zizai didn't regard her as a princess at all. He felt that the girl had no knowledge and had never played anything, so he took her to experience various exciting childhood projects. When he was a child, he was crazy. He dared to go out of the city to the Black Collar Mountains by himself. Once, he took her with him, and they almost got lost. That night, the little girl cried loudly in the dark. Zhang Zizai had no choice but to hold her mouth and said, if you cry again, I'll cut off your tongue. As a result, she could only cover her mouth, sob, and look at him pitifully. In fact, they didn't get along for too long, only between the ages of 4 and 6, about a month or two every year. At that time, Yanlong Emperor seemed to come over to discuss cultivation matters with Zhang Yunting. The two often retreated. Zhang Zizai had forgotten most of it, but it was only when she mentioned it that he remembered that this little girl was quite cute back then. It's a pity that 10 years later, it's not the same as before. Zhang Zizai stared at her and said, Princess, today is different from the past. We can't go back to our childhood. You know what the situation is now. I know. Princess Shenxiao looked a little melancholy. It's so sudden. I didn't expect such a thing to happen. I also know that you haven't gotten the totem for many years, and my father banned it and asked me to go to Daejeon City to find you. Is that so? So even though she misses Zhang Zizai, she can't come to him? The Yanlong Emperor certainly had reasons to do this. Young people's emotions are always blind. If Zhang Zizai couldn't follow the path of a totem martial artist, he would have no choice but to deny contact. Zhang Zizai looked into her eyes, he wanted to see her heart. He said, "Now, your father wants my father's life, and my brother is in the Tay prison of your royal family. How can I be happy in front of you? Brother Zizai." She clenched her fists and then put them down. She lowered her head and murmured, "I know all these things, but I can't control them. I asked my father if they were true, but, the evidence can be seen all over the world, I remember it clearly in the image talisman, I don't know what to do. So, you'd better not come to me. It's like this anyway. If you come to me, you might be punished," Zhang Zizai said seriously. He felt that the joy of childhood should be let go, and there is no need to hold on to it. It is not the same as before. Especially, if Zhang Junjian dies in Yanlong ruins, one day he will take revenge. If you have any interaction with your enemy's daughter, isn't that just asking for trouble? I don't care. I'm a girl. I have 8 brothers. I don't care about the future. The future throne has nothing to do with me. What can I be afraid of? Of course those things exist, I don't care. I heard you. I've come to the temple of sacrifice, and I just want to come and see you." Her eyes were slightly red and there were some tears. "Are you going to drive me away?" She looked at Zhang Zizai like this. "Princess. Can't you use the previous title?" Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth. He felt that there was a whirlpool in front of him. In the whirlpool, the joy of childhood was constantly replayed, and the memory became more and more profound. He did not answer Princess Shengxiao's question. "Actually, I think your difficulties may not be without a chance to be solved. I know that you came to the temple to find a chance to save your brother. I don't know what I can do to help. If there is a way, I will try it." She tried her best to smile and said, "Brother Zizai, I lost my temper today. I have been confined to Yanlong ruins for many years. My father is getting busier and busier. I have always been thinking about you in my memory. I just want to come and see you today. I'm sorry if it causes you any trouble. Is it because I hate her preconceivedly, that's why it's so difficult to accept it? Does she just want to see what she thinks? Maybe the reality in the future will be cruel, but let's just be a friend and work together on the path of spiritual practice in the future." She stretched out her slender hand, facing Zhang Zizai with her snow-white palm, and said, "Come on, hook your hand. We agreed to hang ourselves with a hook and don't change for 100 years. I haven't changed, so don't change either." She smiled and smiled, tears forming in the corners of her eyes again. Zhang Zizai remembered that under that tree, when she was going back to Yanlong ruins, they hooked up and agreed to play together in the future. He stretched out his hand, a little stiffly, and hooked it with her little finger. Her fingers felt a little cool. Seeing Zhang Zizai finally reacting, she was very satisfied and said, "I didn't expect that what you awakened was the dragon totem, just like me. Maybe this is fate. She is from the royal family, so of course she is Yanlong. It's time for me to go." She lowered her head. "Next time, don't come to me." Zhang Zizai took a deep breath. Good. Still the same ending. Princess Shengxiao's eyes were a little dim. Xiao Zhao. Zhang Zizai couldn't bear to see her leaving lonely. Her eyes lit up slightly when she heard these 2 words. "I kind of want to see what you and I will look like in a few years," Zhang Zizai said. "I don't know." She shook her head and said, "I want to go back to 10 years ago. At that time, I was so happy. I didn't have any troubles. I woke up every day to find you. You always had new ideas and made me laugh. Things have changed. The two people's eyes collided for a long time. I heard that you have cultivated to the 8th level of Wyoming realm in half a year. I know that brother's eyes is not a waste as they say. You are still amazing. I am far behind. It was my father's strict requirements that pushed me forward. I have never rested for so many years. From the age of 6 to 15, did she spend like this? Zhang Zizai stared at her pretty face. She was indeed much tougher than before. Goodbye. Perhaps because Zhang Zizai looked a little shy, she was going to leave. Okay. Zhang Zizai walked up and opened the door for her. Can I come again? She stood on the side and looked at him expectantly. No. This time, her arrival must have spread throughout the temple. I won't listen to you, I'm coming again. She smiled coquettishly, turned around and walked out. The moment she came out, all the onlookers outside fled and hid. Zhang Zizai held the door and watched her graceful voice as she left. Such a little girl, unexpectedly grew up to be a graceful girl. Young and ignorant, that was a completely different experience from Xuanhuan, as if the distance between the hearts, with the support of childhood, would be closer. And Xuanhuan, still like a beauty in the clouds, full of temptation, but untouchable. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 85. Many people saw that Princess Shenxiao had a smile on her face when she left. This surprised many people, because you only need to briefly think about their current hostile relationship to know that the meeting between the two will inevitably lead to tit-for-tat confrontation. Why did she come to Zhang Zizai alone? This incident spread quickly, but few people knew that they had known each other since childhood. After she left, the gossip for immediately came in, closed the door, and looked at Zhang Zizai eagerly. Brother, did she threaten you? Ruo Xiaoyu asked. Zhang Zizai thought for a moment and said, no, but she doesn't seem to be on the opposite side of us. Just have less contact with her in the future. She's not arrogant in front of you, Lu Dingxing couldn't figure it out. No, leave her alone, hurry up. Yes, our King of Glory team has to work hard, Ruo Xiaoyu said enthusiastically. Can you change the name? It's called King's Team. It's very domineering, Bai Shenjin lamented. Okay, you can discuss it with the priest. Forget it. Every time they spoke, Wang Qian laughed beside them but said very little. Such is his personality, he has always been relatively low-spirited. It was only after he became friends with Bai Shenjin that he smiled more. Young man, get excited, life should be full of passion. Bai Shenjin put his arm around his shoulders and smiled lewdly. During this period of time, Lu Dingxing seemed to have matured a lot. He was thinking more often. Zhang Zizai had already begun to practice the bolide spear technique. It was his first time practicing the shooting technique with the fire source spear, and the progress was actually good. There were only a few doubts in total, and he planned to ask the 9 Immortals at night. The art of weapons is different with bare hands. Zhang Zizai is not the owner of the magic weapon totem and lacks innate advantages. However, he found that with the magic of the black dragon totem, he can easily control even weapons. When the fire source gun was in his hand, it had many more changes than Zhang Zhengzi. Seeing that the tip of the spear was like a shooting star burning with flames in the sky, under Zhang Zizai's control, it was flying around, filling the sky with dazzling lights. Bai Shenjin and Wang Qian looked at each other. Boss Zhang, this is amazing. I just tried the Chen level battle technique. Regardless of age, he is indeed the most genius I have ever seen. Wang Qian also nodded sincerely. There is no doubt that Zhang Zizai is the leader and soul of their team. I have a hunch that I can almost break through the first profound vein and reach the mysterious vein realm, Bai Shenjin said firmly. It's so fast, congratulations. When the time comes, I will at least be qualified to tell Xueying what I feel. Do you want to confess? Wang Qian asked. Try it. At least let her know my feelings. For the rest, I'll work hard next. Seeing Bai Shenjin's eyes full of youthful longing, Wan Qian pursed her lips. I don't know what the specific competition rules are. I'm a little worried that it won't be effective and will hold you back. After a while, Wang Qianke said. Just think of it as a trial. There is no chance for Tai Chi, it's our turn. We have been booked by Wan Sha and Yang Il for a long time. Shuiying also has a huge chance. Bai Shenjin was telling the truth. After all, when the 9 Immortals let Ruo Xiaoyu come in, they were obviously letting them join in the fun. Otherwise, they would not have given up Dong Yangsheng's fighting ability in the mysterious vein realm. Zhang Zizai was immersed in the bolide spear way and unknowingly, time had passed. He waited until late at night, but the 9 Immortals did not appear. Normally, the two of them would have started practicing in the secret room under the charming atmosphere. Isn't she unhappy because Xiao Zhao came to see me? Zhang Zizai had this idea out of nowhere. However, he immediately smiled. She only teases me on weekdays. She is my benefactor. I should respect her more. I should put those thoughts away first. That night, 9 Immortals did not appear again, as if they had disappeared. Zhang Zizai sprinted to the final state of Wuming realm alone. At the same time, he was also practicing the bolide spear way. This marksmanship is quite extraordinary, and the 9 Immortals actually carefully selected it for him. As for the fire attribute, Zhang Ziyai has actually proven that he can control it with the Yanlong heavy fist. When an ordinary person uses the spear technique, the spear tip will spread out after being pierced. The collision and tearing of the true energy and the air can give birth to red fire, which is densely packed, just like a fiery red meteor. When Zhang Ziyai arrived, the flame meteor turned black and became more destructive. He, a totem martial artist with a beast-like dark totem, used the battle tactics most suitable for the flame magic weapon totem to still exert extraordinary lethality, as if there is a gun hidden in the totem. Because of the Tai Chi incident, the entire sacrificial temple was extremely serious, as if everyone was making the final sprint. Even if the 9 Immortals were not around, he was still completely immersed in the art of shooting, and the fire source gun in his hand became more and more sharp. One day, Zhang Yanning came. I heard that Princess Shenxiao is here to find you. She was sitting upright, and Zhang Zizai had just finished practicing his spear and came in sweating profusely. Yes. How? Zhang Zizai smiled and said, I just told some interesting stories from my childhood, but I asked her not to come over next time. By the way, you said last time that her reputation was not very good. What happened? Zhang Yanning said, I have never been in contact with her. I only heard people say that she has a bad temper. However, it is all hearsay, and you cannot judge a person's temperament. It is better to see it with your own eyes. She thought for a while and said, just catching up on old times. I can't figure it out. The relationship between our two families is already very dangerous now. Zhang Zizai hung up the fire source gun and said, don't worry, I won't have too much contact with her, and it's not convenient to have contact with her now. You know about Tai Chi and the Six Palaces Festival? No. Zhang Zizai came over, sat in front of her, and said with firm eyes, I want to get Tai Chi, and then go to the Six Houses Festival. I guessed it. Zhang Yanning's eyes were soft. Zi, this road is difficult to walk, are you sure you want to try? Zhang Zizai said, Panda is my brother. I can't let him watch his father die like this. He can't control it. Besides, if Uncle Lu is likely to be offended, my brother will have hope. But even if you go to the Six Houses Festival, what can you do? Zhang Zizai shook his head and said, I don't know. I just need to know what I want to accomplish. Huang Guiumen, no matter what, he will stand there. Saving your life is the most important thing. There is still time. Let's work together to find a solution. You can focus on Tai Chi first. If you have any ideas, please discuss it with me. Before Zhang Yanning left, he gave a few words of advice. Okay, I get it, you are more verbose than Mother. Zhang Zizai walked her to the door. Under the sunset, her eyes were so soft, it was the deepest affection. Xiaobao, I believe you. She suddenly turned around and said this to herself. Zhang Zizai was startled. What she meant was that no matter what she did, she believed in and supported him. That's long-winded. Remember, you have a sweetheart. Tell me quickly. I want to test it myself to see if you are qualified to be worthy of my sister. Zhang Zizai said with a smile. What about you, do you like the 9 Immortals priest? Zhang Yanning asked with a smile. Then I have to be liked by others, Zhang Zizai said. Although she is older than us and older brother, I think she is pretty good, Zhang Yanning said suddenly. Under the setting sun, she paused, stared at Zhang Zizai, and said, at least, it's better than Princess Shenxiao. Unexpectedly, she suddenly said this. Xiaobao, don't get together with your enemy's daughter. She finally said one more thing. Good. Zhang Zizai nodded. He felt that Zhang Yanning actually thought too much. Childhood was childhood and the past was past. How could this be possible now? After sending Zhang Yanning away, Zhang Zizai continued to immerse himself in the art of shooting. The 9 Immortals hadn't arrived for several days, so he didn't wait any longer and pondered the last diamond of the 9-pole dragon diamond technique by himself. Oh, I'm so exhausted, sister. I just took over a temporary task and just finished it. Suddenly hearing her voice, Zhang Zizai quickly opened his eyes. Under the candlelight, a charming woman stretched lazily in front of him. The fullness of her chest was ready to be revealed, and the dress seemed to be unable to cover her. Seeing Zhang Zizai looking at her figure passionately, Zhu Xian smiled charmingly and asked, is it beautiful? That's natural. You're so beautiful that the ghosts and gods will weep. When an old turtle who has been dead for 10,000 years sees you, he has to get up and say I'm okay. Zhang Zizai admired it. Indeed, it's perfect. As a result, her eyes changed slightly, and her smile became a little dangerous. How does it compare to Princess Shenxiao? Zhang Zizai's scalp instantly went numb. Woman, what a gossip. Of course you are even more beautiful. There is no such peerless beauty as you in the world. There is no one like you before and no one since. He said quickly. Hey, I heard that when a man and a woman were alone in the same room, didn't something inappropriate happen to them? 9 Immortals surrounded him, their graceful figures like water snakes. Zhang Zizai said, we have been alone for so long. I expected that something inappropriate for children would happen, but nothing happened. After hearing this, Zhu Xian chuckled and said after a long time, it's amazing, I've become more capable. I can't even tease you anymore. It's all because of your good teaching, Zhang Zizai said. To be honest, someone is eyeing the little fresh meat that I have worked so hard to raise. Sister, I'm a little angry. Then take the first step and take me as your own. Your cabbage has just been planted and is not yet mature. What does it taste like when you pick it now? It's green and astringent. I have to be careful so as not to let the pigs get hurt. She looked Zhang Zizai up and down and came to a conclusion. You haven't tasted it, how do you know it's green? Zhang Zizai raised his head and looked at her masculinely, with hot eyes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 86. You don't need to taste it, just smell it and you'll know. Juxian stretched her neck and deliberately sniffed him a few times. Look, it's too tender, I can't eat it. She laughed again, as if she was the final winner of this teasing. Zhang Zizai was just trying to compete with her in teasing skills. but he found that it was really difficult to defeat Juxian. He could only say domineeringly, "Then you definitely didn't expect that maybe you are the cabbage I planted? Because you are not my opponent. If I were a cabbage, how could I pick you off easily? Then you are a pig, and pigs are more powerful than cabbages." Zhang Zizai finally got her in, happy. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. How dare you call me a pig? Juxian glared and pinched his ear with her fingers. Little boy, you are so brave. Sister Juxian, I am not a child anymore. Zhang Zizai's ears hurt, but he was a tough guy and didn't give in at this time. Come on. She finally made Zhang Zizai speechless, exposing her violent nature. Okay, I won't mess with you anymore, sit down, I'll give you a crooked idea about your brother. She put away her smile, sat on the chair, crossed her legs, revealing two long white legs, round and tempting, as white as jade. Hearing that it was related to Zhang Junjian, Zhang Zizai also listened carefully. If you can participate in the 6 prefectures grand meeting, your biggest opponent is Princess Shenxiao. She is really talented and hard-working. There is almost no one in the same age group in the entire Yanlong dynasty who can stand shoulder to shoulder with her. She is so powerful, Zhang Zizai was a little surprised. He didn't try to understand it clearly. Then what else? That old witch even took out Tai Chi just to deal with the genius of the royal family, and of course other schools. Juxian took a sip of tea, and her red lips stained the teacup red, like a flower blooming on it. Old witch, Zhang Zizai was stunned. Juxian was startled and said, "Sorry, I said it wrong, please don't spread it." Zhang Zizai laughed and said, "That's good, I have the evidence in my hand. You dare to call Xinjiao Shenxi an old witch? Zhang Zizai, don't joke, remember, don't tell anyone about this." Of course he knew his limits, nodded, and said, "Go on, I'm listening." If she really has a way to help Zhang Junjian, it would be a favor upon favor. Juxian laughed mischievously again. You want me to defeat her, so that the sacrifice temple will value me more and stand up for me? Zhang Zizai had a headache. Of course, he knew that this would be difficult and basically impossible to achieve. Time does not allow, and Princess Shenxiao is at least at the 5th level of the mysterious veins realm, otherwise, how can she suppress the genius teenagers of the sacrifice temple? Unexpectedly, Juxian shook his head and said, "This method does not have the power to change the final result. Because Zhang Junjian was involved in the desolate Heaven Pass and the death of 100,000 people. If the Flame Dragon Emperor insists, then the sacrifice temple is unlikely to do so. If it stands up for the sin of the lives of 100,000 people, it will lose the support of the people. What is the solution? It's just a crooked idea. You say." Juxian picked up a book on the desk and smelled it. He looked at Zhang Zizai thoughtfully and said, "I know Xiaoyu's smell. There are other women's smells in this book. It smells pretty good." She suddenly changed the subject again. "You say?" "I'm talking about it." She pointed to the book and said, "It smells pretty good. Did that woman leave her smell in this book?" Zhang Zizai was a little confused. "Princess Shenxiao has seen it?" Juxian narrowed his eyes and looked confused. "She came to you to be alone, why?" "We got along in childhood, and we had a good relationship at that time." "Very good, how is her attitude towards you?" "It's okay." Zhang Zizai still didn't understand what her crooked idea was. Juxian shook her head and smiled, saying, "No, her father is so against your family, no royal family dares to have any intersection with you, but she took the risk to come to you, it must not be just okay." "Let me think about it, is it childhood sweethearts, old love rekindled?" Zhang Zizai's forehead was sweating, and said, "Sister Juxian, don't joke, a 6-year-old child, where can the old love come from? That's not important, the important thing is that you have hope." She didn't know why, she always talked about Princess Shenxiao. "What does that have to do with my brother?" Juxian slammed the table, stared at Zhang Zizai, and said, "I've talked about this, why are you still so stupid? My idea is to let her fall in love with you, to have a crazy love affair with you, to make it a done deal as soon as possible, to make her fall in love with you and to marry you. With the love that the Flame Dragon Emperor has for his daughter, he might become your father-in-law, and then let the father-in-law give him face and release your brother. At least, there is some hope, right? After all, he doesn't have to kill your brother. Whether your brother is guilty or not is up to him." A done deal? Zhang Zizai was stunned. He really didn't expect that this idea could be so twisted. He shook his head and said, "I can't do this. It's not fair to her. And compared to your brother's life, are these important?" Juxian asked back. Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth, his heart was in turmoil. He can admit that this is a method that at least has a little hope, but this method is not fair and even cruel. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. He feels that if it is love, then you must love each other. Playing with feelings and even invading his body, what kind of man is that? But what Juxian said makes sense. Compared with your brother's life, is this more important? He has no choice at all. It's just that his heart is extremely repulsive to such a method. Juxian's voice softened, and she whispered, "You don't have to be too excited. I just said that this is just a crooked idea. If there is a better way, it will never be used. You still want to be a hooligan to me, and you are so upright, but you are just a shovel." Zhang Zizai was a little confused. Sometimes his thoughts would be devilish. He was now the most eager to have a way to save his brother. He was thinking, how likely is Juxian's method to be realized, but he felt that if he did this, he would be a real villain, and he couldn't get over this hurdle in his heart. How could a beast who deceives feelings be himself? He stared at Juxian in a daze and asked, "Didn't you say that you wouldn't let anyone pick the cabbages you planted yourself? But cabbages have relatives, and I don't want to let them be desperate and helpless, watching their relatives being killed." Juxian pursed her lips and shook her head. After thinking for a while, Zhang Zizai still shook his head. "Why?" Juxian asked. He pointed to his left chest and said, "It's not allowed here." "Is it because I'm too beautiful that you can't like others?" Juxian smiled. In fact, what she knew was that he didn't want to be someone he looked down on. But she also knew that this might be his current idea. If Zhang Junjian was convicted and had no other options, who could still keep his inner self? Time will give the answer. Zhang Zizai pushed open the door and looked at the sky outside, which was full of stars. The blazing starlight, shining in the night sky, poured down like pearl powder, covering his face. "I like you a little bit." Juxian suddenly stood side by side with him, stretched out her hand, and held his palm. It was a gentle hand. Although it was smaller than hers, Zhang Zizai felt that she was embraced by it, warm and tender. "I'm still young, don't be an old cow eating tender grass." Juxian smiled and said, "Okay, then you wait until you become dead grass, and then the old cow will look down on you. No, then the old cow will find that dead grass is more delicious." Zhang Zizai held her palm tightly. Since he held it, he didn't want to let go for a moment. "I don't deserve you now, I dare not think too much. When my whole family is healthy in the future, I will become the one who can deserve you." Under the starlight, Zhang Zizai looked at her profile and said with fiery eyes. Juxian looked at him, just smiled, and didn't answer. She said in her heart, "But by then, I will be old. Maybe, I don't have much time left. How can I have so much time to wait for you?" Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 87. The next day, the rules for the competition for Tai Chi were announced. Early in the morning, Bai Shenjin roared and rushed in from outside. Before knocking on the door, he ran directly into Zhang Zizai's room. Boss Zhang, I. When he was full of interest and really wanted to speak, he stood there blankly. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. He saw Zhang Zizai and Juxian standing opposite each other on the bed, very close to each other, and their movements were intimate. This had a huge impact on his worldview. Bai Shenjin, if you don't knock on the door next time you come in, your butt will explode. Juxian smiled sweetly, but it made Bai Shenjin tremble all over. Me. I'm sorry. He quickly pushed it out and ran out. He didn't take more than 2 steps. He remembered that he hadn't closed the door yet, so he quickly went over to help them close it. I was wrong. I never dare to do it again. You continue. If Xiaoyu said that one day he saw them hugging each other, Bai Shenjin still didn't believe it, but now he was completely devoted to Zhang Zizai. No, I've disturbed your interest. Come in, what do you want to say? Juxian got out of bed, put on shoes on his white feet, took out the dressing mirror and started to take care of them. Just like the lazy look of a passionate knight last night. That, announced, that, Tai Chi. When Bai Shenjin thought about what happened here last night, he couldn't explain clearly. He was too young. Although it had nothing to do with him, he blushed. I just want to say, Boss Zhang, I kneel down for you. Don't think blindly, there's nothing. Zhang Zizai coughed. He is just practicing. I know, I will never tell anyone. Bai Shenjin chuckled. Okay, even jumping into the Yellow River can't clear it up now. The key point is that the 9 Immortals haven't explained yet, but are saying, don't worry, Bai Shenjin will keep the secret. He doesn't have the guts to tell it? Yes. He nodded quickly like a chicken pecking at rice. Zhang Zizai suddenly felt his extremely adoring eyes, as if she had become a god in his eyes. Call Panda, Xiaoyu, and Xiao Chong in. I still don't know how to compete. The 9 Immortals finished combing and sat on the chair, regaining their majesty and dominance as a priest. Good. Bai Shenjin no longer wanted to stay here alone. It was so embarrassing that he ran away quickly. His fingers were trembling even when he knocked on Lu Dingxing's door. Awesome, even the priest has been taken care of. In the end, within a quarter of an hour, their King of Glory team gathered together in Zhang Zizai's room. Baishan, why are you trembling? Wan Qian stood next to him, looking at him strangely. Well, I'm about to speak, so I'm a little nervous, he. Bai Shenjin raised his head and glanced at Zhang Zizai, feeling guilty. He did not dare to look in the direction of the 9 Immortals. Speak quickly, Juxian said softly. Bai Shenjin finally calmed down and said, that's it, the time is definitely half a month later. The location is not at the Temple of Sacrifice. This time I heard that in order to give everyone some difficulty and exercise, they are going to the sea to a place called Kiri's Hima is the place to decide the winner. The 9 Immortals seemed to have expected it, and said, it is indeed Kiri's Hima. There are many source beasts there, and I heard that there are also spirits haunting it. The core area is a place where totem warriors dare not enter casually. Choose Kiri's Hima. It seems that the divine attendant really wants to force you to achieve true transformation. In the vast sea, there is an isolated island, full of fog, with ghosts crying and howling, which sounds more terrifying than the Black Soul Abyss. Zhang Zizai frowned a little. He thought he was just offering sacrifices to the temple and fighting directly. He didn't expect that there would be tests such as terrain and source beasts. What about the format? How to determine winning or losing? Because the Six-Mansion Grand Conference includes team events and takes up a large proportion, so this time the divine attendant comes directly in this way, which can be regarded as a practice. Kitayamajin said, there are 99 teams in total. Each team holds a god sacrifice flag before entering, and then disperses onto Kiri's Hima. In Kiri's Hima, they will fight for a month. After the time is up, whichever team has the most sacrificial flags, is the winner. This method is really simple and crude. The stronger the team, the weaker team will definitely snatch the sacrificial flags. In a month, the strong team can grab enough sacrificial flags. However, you cannot fail, because once you fail, the flag of sacrifice to the gods may be empty in an instant. The further you go to the back and defeat a team, the more sacrificial flags you may get. You don't even need to defeat them, you can just grab them directly. But all of this is basically based on strength. In a place like Kirishima, where the sky and the sky are not responding, and the earth are not working, strength is the strongest support. And, of course, the brains. Who does Tai Chi belong to, and how to define it? Zhang Zizai asked. Baishan Jin said, it will be evaluated by the 3 divine servants and given to the core figure in the strongest team. The other 4 in the strongest team will also receive heavy rewards, including other evolutionary sources, totem weapons, skills, and battle tactics. Even spiritual stones, you can choose them by yourself. Zhu Xian nodded and said, in other words, only the team with the most sacrifice flags will get rewards, including Tai Chi, while the second team will get nothing. That's right. The 9 immortals pondered for a moment and came to the conclusion, the divine attendant is really ruthless. This will force you not to relax for a moment. You must fight crazily. If you are second in the sacrifice flag, you will have nothing. At the same time, Kirishima's special situation, and it will add a lot of tests to you. They want to select a person who can really turn the tide. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. She moved her eyes to Zhang Zizai and said, this is your best chance. Zhang Zizai nodded. He understood what the 9 immortals meant. If the 3 divine servants cherished his talent, then no matter what, he would have strong capital and be qualified to fight against the Yanlong royal family. The grand meeting of the 6 prefectures is Zhang Zizai's problem, but also an opportunity for him to rise. Zhu Xian stood up and said with a chuckle, actually, Kirishima's project has advantages for you. In such an environment, the little bug is like a hunter in the dark. His eyes can make your entire team, they are more agile than others, which is equivalent to you being in the dark and the enemy being in the light. Baishan Jin's totem characteristic wind and fire domain can create a chaotic battlefield. Baishan Jin was startled and said, priest, aren't we going to join in the fun? What nonsense are you talking about? We want to take first place, Ruo Xiaoyu said. Ah! Do you just rely on us? Forgive me, I think among the 5 of us, the only one who is reliable is Boss Zhang. Baishan Jin was ashamed, he felt that he was not good. Wan Qian was a little confused, and he asked, Master Priest, do we really want to fight for it? Juxian said, that's natural. Don't lose my face. Besides, you have certain potential. If you get first place, you must believe in yourself. In fact, not only Baishan Jin and Wan Qian, but Lu Dingxing and Ruo Xiaoyu also felt that they were basically unable to help. Of course, what the 9 immortals think. She came over, stood behind Zhang Zizai, put her hands on Zhang Zizai's shoulders, and rested her chin on Zhang Zizai's shoulders. The aroma is delicious. Her intimate gesture made the other 4 people sit up straight in an instant, not squinting, not daring to look at her and Zhang Zizi. Everyone, look here, Juxian said softly. The 4 of them could only bite the bullet and watch. I saw Juxian pointing at Zhang Zizai and said, you guys are just a little bit good, it doesn't matter. We only need a powerful killer who can lead the rhythm. He may not be unable to win. Zhang Zizai is a killer. After saying that, she kissed Zhang Zizai gently on the temple. The 4 Baishan Jins immediately looked at the ceiling, saying that they saw nothing. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 88. Regarding the War of Kirishima, in addition to the flags of offering sacrifices to the gods, there are actually other settings. For example, 3 priests are in a group, and 2 Yuanqing are in a group, patrolling the entire Kirishima to ensure the fairness of the battle. They will watch the battle and even record it. If there is a death crisis, they will definitely help. Of course, once they are helped, they will be eliminated directly. Even if they are almost killed by the source beast, they will be eliminated, because this is also part of strength. How to survive in the wilderness in the face of dangers is a comprehensive manifestation of strength and wisdom. The temple of offering sacrifices needs more than just geniuses with strength. Everyone is equipped with an ascension talisman, which can only be used once and can be used at the critical moment of life and death. When priests and Yuanqing see the light of the ascension talisman, they will go to support and rescue, but after using it, the individual will be eliminated, which is equivalent to one less person in the team. Kirishima is not very large. Priests are in a group of 3, supervising each other, and all Yuanqing are dispatched, so it is not a problem to control the life and death of the entire Kirishima. After listening to all the rules, Juxian shook his head and smiled. This is just the final exam. The teachers and directors are all here to supervise, in groups of 2 or 3, with surveillance cameras overhead, and the vice principal is out in person. It's pitiful, you just came to school and you have to take the final exam, Juxian said to Zhang Zizai. She often blurted out some incomprehensible words, and Zhang Zizai had long been accustomed to it. With 15 days left, you will reach the 9th level of the Wuming realm, which is more than enough. However, there are still many opponents in the sacrifice temple that you cannot deal with for the time being. When you are in Kirishima, it depends on your own luck. Remember, this is also very important. Juxian pointed to his head. Understood. Kirishima is definitely a huge advantage for their team. Our king's team must be invincible, haha, Bai Shenjin was encouraged and a little excited. It's the King of Glory team, Juxian corrected. Priest, this name is a bit silly. Bai Shenjin said boldly. Okay, then we'll change the name to the Fool Squad. No. After the rules of the Battle of Mist Island were announced, it caused a stir in the sacrifice temple. Some people thought that they shouldn't go to such a dangerous place. Others thought that this was the place where disciples could be truly tested. Everyone had their own opinions, but the rules that had been announced could not be changed. Zhang Zizai had a firm goal, he knew what he should do, and he would naturally go all out in the remaining preparation time. Occasionally, he also tried the deceleration talisman, and so far he had wasted 3 pieces of talisman paper and had not succeeded, but he had already gained some experience. Ruo Xiaoyu and Lu Dingxing, 2 heaven-level totem owners, naturally knew the key to this matter, and they were all going all out. Bai Shenjin and Wanqian didn't know their goals, so they didn't hold much hope for Taiji. But unexpectedly, the most casual Bai Shenjin broke through first and became the second Xuanmei realm in the 9 Immortal Pavilion. His timely breakthrough made Juxian very happy, and he directly rewarded him with a heaven-level technique to open the Xuanmei, named Wind and Fire Open Heaven Technique. Bai Shenjin, without any resources behind him, had everything he had from the sacrifice temple. This heaven-level technique, Wind and Fire Open Heaven Technique, was too important to him. He was grateful and said, "Master, I know why you gave me such a good technique. I will definitely keep my mouth shut and never tell anyone what I saw that day," he promised Juxian. "What did you see that day?" Juxian asked with a smile. "No, I didn't see anything. I was blind that day," he said hurriedly. "It's good that you're blind. Go and consolidate." Bai Shenjin left happily. At night, he had successfully put the Wind and Fire Open Heaven technique on the right track, and would use this technique to open the Xuanmei in the future. My current strength can also rank among the top among the disciples of the Sacrifice Temple. After reaching the Xuanmei realm, Bai Shenjin gained a lot of confidence. "Wan Qian, I want to go find her tomorrow." He squatted in the yard, while Wan Qian sat cross-legged. His eyes were as bright as the stars at this moment. It seemed that he was absorbing the starlight in the sky to forge his eyes. "Do you want to confess?" Wang Qian asked. Bai Shenjin shook his head and said, "Not really. After all, I have reached the Xuanmei realm and am qualified to be her friend. At least, let her know my thoughts first. Now I certainly can't expect her to agree to anything. I will slowly pursue her in the future. Maybe in a few years, there will be a chance." "Are you sure? Even if she agrees, her status is too high, and her family will become an obstacle for you in the future." Bai Shenjin touched his head and said, "People, after all, have to fight for it, otherwise how do you know it won't work? After all, the two of us are also very predestined." Wang Qian looked at him, pursed his lips, and said, "Do it if you want to, and leave no regrets." "Tomorrow, I will go to find her," Bai Shenjin said firmly. He remembered a lot of things, and when he thought of her appearance, he couldn't help but smile. The next day, Zhang Ziyu was surrounded by the disciples of Juxian Pavilion and practiced the fire meteor spear again. Everyone knows when he acquired this gun skill, but it hasn't been long since he practiced it to this level. "Dong Yang, he's progressing too fast. If he doesn't have the accelerating talisman, can you beat him?" a young man in purple asked Dong Yang Sheng. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Dong Yang Sheng looked indifferently and said, "If it weren't for the acceleration talisman, how could I lose to him? It's not about last time, it's about now." Dong Yang Sheng pursed his lips, his eyes flickered, and said, "Now, he is not my opponent." The young man in purple smiled and said nothing more. "He is indeed very powerful, and the martial arts realm is only so strong, but I dare say that the five of them will be cannon fodder when they arrive at Kiri's Hima. If nothing else, Ruo Xiaoyu is at the 6th level of the martial arts realm, a little girl. When we arrived at Kiri's Hima, the person had already ascended to heaven before the ascension talisman was issued," Dong Yang Sheng said firmly. "Priest, you are really joking." "This is a clear admission of defeat," the boy in purple said. "To be honest, I really regret joining the 9 Immortals Pavilion." Dong Yang Sheng gritted his teeth, but he knew that it was impossible for him to switch to other priests. The 9 Immortals priest is a disciple of the Divine Attendant and the sister of Shen Yuanqing. Her own talent is a mystery. I thought I was lucky to be her disciple. Unexpectedly, her mind was not on the priests at all. Here we are. There is no future at all. The boy in purple couldn't help but sigh. When they were talking about this, Zhang Zizai was gathering with Wang Qian and the others. "What about the stupid bird?" Zhang Zizai asked Wang Qian. "I'm out. I'm looking for Nangong Shuiying," Wang Qian replied softly. "Confession?" Zhang Zizai asked. Wang Qian nodded. Zhang Zizai pursed his lips and said, "Go find him." "Why?" Although Zhang Zizai was new here and had only glanced at Nangong Shuiying, he knew that at some point, some things would not end well. Zhang Zizai didn't say much. He said hello, and the four of them went out and went to the Qingxian pavilion of the priest Feng Qingxian. As soon as he left the gate of Juxian pavilion, what Zhang Zizai expected happened. 4 tall young men, walking like a dragon and a tiger, carrying a young man with messy hair and multiple blood stains on his body, came to the door of Juxian pavilion under the gaze of many people. They threw the young man at the door of Juxian pavilion. One of the young men was wearing a light golden robe. He was tall but not rude, with a strong and handsome appearance and a stern expression. He threw the young man to the ground and said, "Bai Shenjin, I want to say this for the last time, listen up, don't think about it anymore. Eat swan meat, you just got lucky and saved Shuiying once, do you really think she will like you? You don't know how embarrassed she is every time you show up." Another boy laughed and said, "This guy is really a piece of shit. He doesn't even bother to look in the mirror to see what kind of person he is. His parents are both mortal insects. he still has the nerve to confess his love to Xueying. Even now, he doesn't even think about it. Do you know that he and we are not from the same world? Okay, just throw it away. Remember, don't let us see you next time. Xueying, you have embarrassed her today, and she doesn't want to see you again. The young man in a light golden robe took out a package from his arms, threw it on Baishanjin, and said, "These are 53rd grade spiritual stones, which can be regarded as the reward you gave me for saving Xueying. From now on, we will do it again. It doesn't matter at all, brothers, let's go." Zhang Zizai and the others had just come out and saw all this. Tomorrow night at 12 o'clock, the madman will once again take out 1000 yuan and wrap it into 500 red envelopes to give back to the supporting readers. To grab red envelopes, open WeChat, add friends, search the official account Feng Qingyang to follow, and then just wait until around 12:05 tomorrow night. These days, many readers have sent red envelopes to Madman. Unknowingly, this book has become a 100 alliance. Thank you all. Madman will give back with updates. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 89. Baishanjin was beaten. Zhang Zizai had expected all this. He didn't know that Baishanjin would confess his feelings, otherwise he would have advised him. After the four men finished speaking, they left. "Stop," Zhang Zizai said, and quickly followed. "If you beat someone, don't think about leaving. Let them go." Unexpectedly, Baishanjin climbed up by himself. His face was full of scars and there was a lot of blood on his body. But these injuries were nothing. The most hurt was probably the heart. So, when Zhang Zizai wanted to stop them, he didn't let them. "Who are you?" The tall boy looked back at Zhang Zizai. Immediately, he suddenly realized and smiled. It turned out to be Zhang Zizai, whose name is well known. "It is said that you will also participate in the Battle of Kiri's Hima. When the time comes, I will learn from you." Although Zhang Zizai has been here for a short time, he has long been famous. "Don't stop them, let them go." Baishanjin gritted his teeth and said another sentence. Zhang Zizai naturally respected his opinion. "Remember, my name is Yuqi Wei. If you want to avenge him, come to Qingxian Pavilion to find me at any time, waiting for you." The young man in the golden robe smiled coldly, then turned around and left. Seeing this scene, many onlookers couldn't help but laugh. What happened? Baishanjin went to confess to Nangang Xueying and was beaten up by her friends. So mean? He really has no self-knowledge. Nangang Xueying herself should be so angry that she would take action. That's not the case, but when Yuqi Wei and the others took action, she watched the whole process without any expression, probably acquiescing. It's really a typical example of a toad wanting to eat swan meat. It makes me laugh to death, haha. The disciples laughed loudly, and many people laughed inside Juxian Pavilion. In fact, didn't Baishanjin save Nangang Xueying's life? Why did he make such a fuss? That's true, but after all, a favor is a favor, and the two cannot be confused. These two people are not from the same world. It's a pity that Baishanjin is a genius, but he can't even see this clearly. Zhang Zizai estimated that he had heard these words more than once. A usually active and carefree boy now looked at the world with bloodshot eyes. Son of a mortal insect. Ridiculous. Mortal insect. Mortal insect. It seemed like countless flies were flying around his ears. The whole world had abandoned him. Birthplace is so important. Everyone can threaten him with his parents. Why? Why? Baishanjin clenched his fists tightly. He was not angry, he just couldn't figure it out. Let's go back first. Zhang Zizai could think of all his feelings at the moment. Let's go. Boss Zhang. I didn't expect that at this time, this person who had just met for a few days could stand in front of me. His eyes were firm and penetrating, but without any contempt. This was the difference between them and everyone else. He followed Zhang Zizai and Lu Dingxing back to the room. Ruo Xiaoya closed the door. When she closed it, someone outside was still looking in, looking for a while and laughing for a while. Are you embarrassed or sad? Zhang Zizai asked him to sit down and stood in front of him. Not embarrassed, but sad and confused. Bai Shenjin gritted his teeth. He was actually very tough and was controlling himself to prevent his tears from falling. I don't understand why she is like this. I don't understand why she refused, but she acquiesced to people attacking me. Even if she doesn't like me, there is no need to embarrass me so much. In the past, our relationship was always okay. When they started, she was watching from the side. I will never forget that look in my eyes. She despised me and hated me. Zhang Zizai said in a deep voice, this is the answer. The answer is that she is not the person you imagined. She maintained a relationship with you before just because she felt that you were grateful to her, but after such a long time, the gratitude has faded. Now she just feels that your existence and the fact that you saved her make her so embarrassed. You are really not from the same world. She is much worse than you imagined. If she didn't hate you, she would never let you be so embarrassed today. Since she has the heart to hurt you like this, you don't need to be confused at all, because you don't understand her at all. Or rather, you don't know her at all. Bai Shenjin took a deep breath. He understood. In fact, there is really nothing to be confused about. I used to be immersed in joy, but now I think carefully. Every time we meet recently, her expression is a little wrong. Obviously she hates me, but I can't see it. A lesson can make a person grow up. Will you still miss her? Zhang Zizai asked. No, it's not worth it. The world is so big, there are always people who are worth it, right? Zhang Zizai smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, of course, you can't find a three-legged woman, but you can choose a two-legged sow. Bai Shenjin actually laughed. He is actually an optimist. Such a big person, others must not be able to bear it. He actually laughed at this time and said, compared to a two-legged sow, I would rather have a three-legged woman. After the smile, there is a change. Everything today is like a nightmare. He dare not imagine that the ending is like this. The perfect image of her in his heart collapsed to such an extent in one day. Bai Shenjin knew that she would definitely not agree. She had so many restrictions. He went there today just to let her know that there was someone who liked her. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Unexpectedly, she flew into a rage and scolded herself, attracting her friends. She watched helplessly and even acquiesced, letting them beat her up and throw her out. Bai Shenjin actually didn't resist because he was completely confused. He didn't expect that when he said the words I like you, she would have such a disgusting look in her eyes. According to his conscience, he is neither ugly nor talented. If he had her resources, he was confident that he could achieve her level. Why, her eyes are so disgusting. It's still like Zhang Zizai said, this is the real her. The beauty of her is all in his imagination, and his memory is all about her fear and helplessness in those days. He protected this woman, so there were so many misunderstandings, thinking that she was the real her. It turns out that this person who is so indifferent is the real her. It's not her family who values identity, background, and status, it's herself who values it more than anyone else. Then, why should I feel sad for such a person? Bai Shenjin raised his head, looked at Zhang Zizai with blazing eyes, and said, Boss, I want to work as hard as you. I know that you haven't stopped for a moment since you came into the temple to worship, and with my status, I am always lazy. His mind was on cultivation. His eyes were fiercer than ever before, and perhaps it was the words of the onlookers that hurt his heart even more. I must become strong. I don't want my children to be called the sons of mortal insects like me. I don't want my children to become mortal insects, unable to fight their fate. They will be bowed down to everyone. He will definitely be different after Baishan. Then, let's start with the Battle of Kiris Hima, Zhang Zizai said. Baishan, Wanqian, I will definitely get Tai Chi in the Battle of Kiris Hima. Are you willing to help me? Zhang Zizai asked. Tai Chi. They were shocked. They didn't expect Zhang Zizai to be this target. But, there are so many strong people, what if we meet Yongle and Wancha them? Baishan was a little confused. It's very simple, defeat them and take away their sacrificial flag. Just us, Wan Qian was stunned. It's up to us. So, what if we meet Nangong Shuiying, Ye Chaiwei, and the others? Baishan suddenly asked. Zhang Zizai smiled slightly and said, of course, defeat them. I'm participating, Baishan howled. I don't seek victory or defeat, I only seek a decent fight. Zhang Zizai patted his shoulder. When the time comes, I will support you. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 90. After making up their mind, they spent the next few days practicing sprinting and formulating a battle plan. This battle plan needs to give priority to Kirishima's special terrain. The 9 Immortals had said that Wan Qian and Baishan were both talented people with special strengths, so Zhang Zizai also witnessed their wind and fire domain and super powerful pupil skills. Baishan totem characteristic is the wind and fire domain. When he uses it, a pair of wings appear behind him. One is composed of strong winds, densely covered with sword wind, and the other is composed of flames, burning with anger. When this pair of wings flaps, it can cause a firestorm within a certain range. The flames, blown by the strong wind, can make burning flames everywhere within the range, especially in Kiris Hima. He has the ability to instantly set a forest within a mile in diameter on fire. The key is that he can control the overall situation, exquisitely control the direction of the flames and wind, and even confuse the sight by causing flying sand and rocks. Zhu Xian said, the totem characteristics of the wind and fire parrot totem are like a supergroup control, especially when Baishan is promoted to the mysterious vein realm, his true energy surges and his control is strengthened, within his wind and fire domain. Zhang Zizai could also predict that he could actually bring him great convenience during the battle. As for Wan Qian, although he is not very lethal, his eyes are really perfected to a heaven-defying degree. He can see mosquitoes dozens of feet away. If his vision is not blocked, he can see clearly anything within a mile. The most terrifying thing is that his totem characteristic is called arcsight. This is an incredible method. As the name suggests, his sight can bend. Suppose there is a big tree in front of them. There are several people hiding behind the big tree, but Wan Qian can see them if they can turn around. If there are beauties changing clothes behind a wall, Wan Qian can clearly see the hair on their bodies. Baishan clicked his tongue. Just introduce it, don't talk nonsense. Wan Qian had a headache. Zhu Xian also said before, as long as Wan Qian is here, you will be able to discover them before all the teams discover you. Wan Qian will know clearly that they can enter within 1 mile of you. Wherever there is a source beast, he will also know it. You can see it in advance. With him here, in Kiris Hima, you can choose who to ambush and who to avoid. Even if you don't go head to head with the top teams, you are actually pretty sure to get the first place. Her method actually makes sense. Now that the Divine Attendant has come up with such a test method, he will use Wan Qian to take advantage of this loophole. There were many teams weaker than them, and some teams didn't even have a single Xuanmei realm. Relying on Wan Qian's ability, they retreat when they encounter the strong and advance when they encounter the weak. No matter how powerful the team is, they may not be as efficient as them. Moreover, they can all advance and avoid risks. To put it this way, we actually still have hope. Bai Shenjin's eyes became even more intense. He wants to prove himself more than anyone else in the Battle of Kiri's Hima. The panda's mission is to protect Xiaoyu and Wan Qian. Your troll panda transformation is very resistant to beatings. If it is targeted, I can buy a lot of time. After all, he is a heaven-level totem. Even if his realm is temporarily lower, he is actually quite difficult to deal with, especially the troll panda transformation. For those who didn't know, they thought it was an origin beast. Brother, what am I doing? Ruo Xiaoyu looked at Zhang Zizai eagerly. Zhang Zizai smiled and said, the priest said that you don't have to do anything, just be responsible for being cute and encouraging your teammates. Okay, I will definitely complete the task. Ruo Xiaoyu is full of confidence in this task. Have you thought of a slogan? Zhang Zizai asked. Think about it, Ruo Xiaoyu secretly smiled. Tell me and listen. Listen up, King of Glory, go to bed after playing. Haha. Yes, it rhymes. Amid the laughter, the five of them all shed a lot of sweat. Young people, some do it for dignity, some do it for their dreams, and some do it to protect their families. They fight together. At night, Zhu Xian looked at them working together and showed a knowing smile. It's great to be young. Every night, she and Zhang Zizai were alone together. Every time she came, she would take Zhang Zizai away. The other four people were left, laughing and having ambiguous expressions. Brother, work harder, Ruo Xiaoyu clenched her fists. Of course, every night, he and the 9 immortals just practiced purely together. Unexpectedly, the most impressive person was Ruo Xiaoyu. Within half a month of coming to the Temple of Sacrifice, she had broken through to the 7th level of the martial life realm, and her level was on the same level as Lu Dingxing. This made Lu Dingxing anxious. After all, Ruo Xiaoyu showed off next to him every day. After becoming a heaven-level totem, and with the forging of the Kailan Dream Heart art, Lu Dingxing's progress was quite astonishing. He was an authentic heaven-level totem. After a few days, he successfully reached the 8th level of the martial life realm. This speed is faster than the speed of ordinary heaven-level totems. However, their starting point is indeed worse than that of Yanlongxiu. Bai Shenjin is an earth-level totem, and now they are all at the mysterious vein realm. Zhang Zizai's target was the 9th spiritual aperture, the Black Dragon Qi, which was guided to the Tianfu point. After forging the Black Dragon's true energy from the 8th spiritual orifice, Zhang Ziyu was protected by the 9 immortals and charged into his 9th spiritual orifice the night before he set off for Kiri's Hima. The 9-pole dragon drilling technique has reached the last drill. When the 9 immortals are around, there is no need for spiritual stones at all, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is enough. At night, the beauty in white is graceful and moving, with red lips and fragrant tongue, flowing between the candle lights. The refreshing fragrance enters the nose, whispering softly and tingling the heartstrings. Under such temptation, Zhang Zizai was able to successfully break through and reach the 9th level of martial life realm, which is considered a very strong willpower. In his body, 9 spiritual orifices were combined together, vaguely resembling the outline of a divine dragon. From now on, the 9 acupoints are integrated, and the Black Dragon's true energy that can be exploded is much more powerful than when he was at the 8th level of martial destiny. In terms of combat effectiveness, it must have skyrocketed crazily. Hey, my summoner's jungle has developed quite well at night, the 9 immortals' red lips activated, and while speaking, the fragrant tongue moved, soft and warm. That's right, of course I'm well developed. Zhang Zizi smiled proudly. You don't understand what my development means. What's the point of development? Isn't it just my young, strong, and vigorous body? Zhang Zizai stood up, raised his arms, kept smiling, and showed his biceps to Juxian. Proving yourself is not just about showing off, Juxian said with a smile. Then what do you want to rely on? Get Tai Chi and give me some face. I will give you some rewards you want. Zhu Xian's eyes were ambiguous. Do you know what I want? Zhang Zizai stared at her, moving his gaze downwards to that plump position. No, it can't be. Her eyes were blurred. Zhang Zizai's head was congested. He's going to fight. For the sake of beauty, I will go on a killing spree. P.S. There are 2 chapters in total today. After 12 o'clock in the evening, 5 chapters will be updated. In total, 1 chapter will be updated tomorrow. Note that these 5 chapters are past 12 o'clock and will be updated tomorrow. The reason for this arrangement is to hit the list on Monday. Shenlong is now second in the list of serial clicks on the entire site. In order to give back to everyone, at 12 o'clock tonight, Madman's WeChat public account will send out a 1000 yuan red envelope. Please remember to follow Madman's WeChat Feng Qingyang to receive it. It will lag about 12:05 minutes later. Just search the official account Feng Qingyang on WeChat. After receiving the red envelope, you can also read a book. The update of Holy Dragon is already very impressive. After all, the madman has to write 2 books every day. Today, he still has the task of 3 chapters of Swallowing the Sky. He works more than 12 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday. I am determined to be a dedicated and grateful author. Please support me in the future.